The other topic that came up, and he took just a couple of questions after he provided some prepared remarks, he was asked about whether and to what extent having fans present for some games, no fans present for other games due to the pandemic, and it seems like more and more teams won't have fans present. He was asked a simple question of whether or not it's a competitive advantage for some of those stadiums to have fans in them. He said, "We do not believe it's a competitive advantage. We discussed it very early on with our competition committee and with our clubs. We do not see that. We obviously have varying capacities across the league, and from our standpoint, we want to invite our fans. If we can do it safely and we can do it with the full support of local officials, we think our fans want to come to the stadium."
How is that possible? Just let me say this. Is this like spin just to say, like, to squash the subject? Like, are they spinning it just to be like, yeah, there's no competitive advantage and act like it's not even there? Or do he truly believe that? Like, I mean, come on. We've already heard coaches say there's a competition issue there.
Well, we all have eyes and we all have ears and we all have brains. I mean, look, I'm choosing my words here carefully, and I just wonder. I wonder if someone would have even tried to say that with a straight face 5 years ago, right? Or have we gotten to a point in our society where you just say whatever you want to say? Just say whatever you want to say as long as it meshes with your interests or because you just don't feel like conceding the point, even if the point needs to be conceded. It used to be more than 5 years ago. I think I'm going to use 5 years ago as the dividing line. It used to be people were concerned about their credibility. It used to be that people would admit something that they had to admit, because if you don't, then no one's ever going to believe anything you say. That's the problem here. To the extent that the commissioner wants people to believe him on other things, there are certain things you have to concede. You must concede there's a competitive advantage if you have fans in your stands or if you don't. Now, I think he was trying to make a more nuanced point, but the problem is when you come out of the gate saying it's not a competitive advantage, the nuanced point gets lost. And one of his nuanced points is, well, some teams have more fans. They've got a greater capacity. It's louder. So if we're going to go down this path of competitive advantage, then maybe all stadiums should be limited in size. Maybe the Cowboys shouldn't be allowed to have 100,000. Maybe the Seahawks shouldn't be allowed to design their stadium in a way to amplify the sound. There's a lot of stuff that happens to enhance the home field advantage. But still, there is a home field advantage.
Of course there is.
There is a benefit. There is a competitive edge. And if some teams have no fans and other teams do, yes, it makes a difference. And I don't know why. And this gets back to last week when we were talking about Mike Zimmer's comments and Sean McDermott's comments, right, the Vikings and Bills coach respectively. And I said, why didn't the NFL just come out and say we're chasing the money here? And actually, the real point is, they're catering to those fans that desperately want to go to the games. Just admit that.
Yeah.
We've got fans who want to come to our games, and we're not going to close the door on them in a place where they're allowed to come to the games just because in another community they're not allowed to come to the games.
I don't get it. I mean, it is what it is. I don't understand. You're right. Why can't we just call it for what it is this year? Yeah, some teams are going to have a little advantage. I mean, all right. It's not a normal year. Everybody knows that. Everybody. Like, everybody in the world knows this. Like, you're not going to hurt anybody's feelings if he came out and went, yep, I'm sorry. We're trying to do the best for our league here. There's a lot of moving parts. And, yeah, unfortunately, because the way the pandemic has, run its course and the states are involved, that some teams are going to have a little advantage this year. I don't think, people would be like, oh my gosh, he admitted it. Teams are going to have an advantage. I'm not going to watch football this year. This is bull crap. One team's going to have 20,000. The other one's not. It's not fair. I'm not watching. I don't even understand that. And to your point, it goes on a lot in our society right now. Never be wrong. Just say something, and kind of let some people figure it out. And then other people just go wherever they want with it.
But who's going to believe this?
Nobody.
For a lot of the other things we hear that aren't true in our society, there's a group of people that is going to believe it no matter what. Where is the base that Roger Goodell is catering
that's a
to
good,
by saying
good question.
who's going to, other than Jerry Jones, right? And maybe that's the answer. Maybe, again, to get back to the point we made last week about the anthem, maybe they need to remove Roger Goodell's name from the football and put Jerry Jones' name on it, because maybe that's why he said it. So Jerry Jones can cram as many bodies as he possibly can into the stadium there. And in Texas, you're allowed to have up to 50% capacity. And Jerry Jones suggested last week they're going to be south of that, but still, they may have more fans than anyone else. And is it a competitive advantage? Yes, it is. Why not just say, Chris, this isn't going to be a perfect year? We understand that. We all get that.
Exactly.
There are challenges. We'd rather have 256 imperfect games than 0 perfect games. And people would accept. No one's going to kill him for that. We get it. We want football, even if there are going to be some things that aren't fair. That's what Mike Tirico told us last week, and he did it much more eloquently than I ever could. This isn't going to be a fair season, period.
Yeah.
Let's accept it, and let's move on.
Agreed.
And let's not say things that are completely, over the top, where folks are just going to roll their eyes and say, what in the world is he even trying to sell here?
Right.
Okay, another thing that Roger Goodell said is that as it relates to the success they're having with COVID-19, we're not patting ourselves on the back yet, which is smart. And that's one thing I hear all the time. Anytime the NFL does do a little mini victory lap with the numbers and they do kind of pat themselves on the back a little bit, hey, ho, ho, let's not get carried away here, because we're going to get people complacent. Beyond the ever-present concern for a jinx, we're going to get guys complacent if we act like everything's fine and it's no big deal. So it's smart for a voice like Roger Goodell's to be used to say to everyone, hang on, we still got a long way to go here. We have yet to beat this. We're just trying to coexist with it.
Yeah, I don't get cocky with this thing. We know, yes, protocols have been put in the right spot. I mean, everything looks like it's going in the right direction. But we know, we see evidence that things can change in a heartbeat. We'll look at colleges opening up, other hot spots we've seen around the country when people gather or whatever else. There could be issues there. So, yeah, this is not the type of thing you can start to feel good about and puff out your chest and be like, yeah, we're dominating COVID-19 for a month now. All right, well, it's a long fight. So we just got to, stay on our, P's and Q's there and make sure we stay on top of our game.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.